Love is a feeling expressed all over the world. And on Valentine's Day, we take time to share gifts and express our love to our loved ones. But what is love where you come from? Have you ever thought about that? Welcome to the Summon, the African Summon, where we connect you to Africa and African culture. In today's edition, we'll be talking about love. And I have invited a very dear friend of mine. She is a crusader for financial fitness and has committed herself to educating a lot of people of African origin on financial wellness, how to build a safety net, how to ensure that we don't remain in a place where we're constantly begging for money. She grew up in Africa, moved to the West, and has lived here and has had the advantage of experiencing life in different cultures. So I think there's a lot for us to gain from her experience. Do invite your friends, neighbors, and loved ones and join us for this wonderful conversation. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. Welcome, Saaghe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my friend Mana.
So great to have you. We're going to be going right back to PSS Mancon. So tell me about the country where you come from. Tell me something about your people. If we were to visit them, what would you like for us to know?
Well, I'm from Cameroon in West Africa, specifically from the Northwest region. And then if you go deeper, I'm from the Menchum division. And if you go further down, the village is Wom. Wom, Agam Wom. There are many surrounding villages. You have Wei, you have Bu, you have Zwa, you have Isu, Befang, Nyos. I mean, to name a few, those are a few villages that are around where I come from originally. And one thing that's very unique about where I come from is the matrilineal succession, which has always been a very interesting succession. It has caused a lot of eyebrow raising amongst others, especially if people marry from different villages. They don't understand that succession process, but that will be a video for another day. The traditional dish is corn fufu with vegetable. So they eat it with the hands. So you have to eat it with your hands. And yeah, that's our main dish amongst others. But corn is definitely the most grown grain in Womb. A lot of people live off of that. They're corn farmers, and and they make their living from that, and then planting vegetables as well. So that's where I'm from. I think that's good enough.
Awesome.
Introduction.
So what about love? Tell me, what's your understanding of love?
So love to me is basically an expression between different categories of people. So it can be between partners, so spouses, significant others. It can be between parents and their children. It can be an expression between friends. So it's expressed differently by different people through words, through action, through body language, just different ways, or people have different ways of expressing it. And it's just, for me, it's mostly an expression from one person to another, showing them how you feel about them.
So growing up in Africa, I'd like to borrow from that experience. What was love? What was your understanding of love? And how do people express love?
So coming from Africa, growing up as a little kid, the expression of love, it wasn't very physical in terms of between couples, right? Spouses, partners. It wasn't about kissing in public or, sitting on your lap, and, it wasn't very physical like that. It was more through people's action. People showed it by coming to you when you were in need, hospitality, being there for you when a member of the congregation of the church had a problem, it was everybody's problem. It wasn't just your problem where you just had to go sit in your house and deal with it by yourself. So if a woman had a baby, the whole community came together. They brought food. Some people moved in. They literally moved in to take care of that baby for you. They brought food. There was food continuously, um, cooked. When the food is done, another pot is being put on the fire for the next meal. There were groups of people coming in and out. You had some who were permanently there because they didn't have any food at their house, so they're going to be there to wait for all that food that was being cooked. And then they passed that baby around. The mother only took the baby to breastfeed because most of the children were breastfed. They weren't bottle fed. So the mom just had the privilege of holding that baby to breastfeed them because she was the only one who could provide that meal for the baby, and then hand it back to somebody else. They'll help you wash the baby. They'll help you dress them up, put the baby to sleep. You only napkins, because it was cloth. It wasn't diapers that were disposable. And then you had a steady person who had to soak them, get the poop out of it, wash it. They love you if they're washing your baby's poop. So they really loved you. So cook, and then in the evening, everybody gathered around the fireplace, roast corn, plum, boil some peanuts. It was endless. The cooking was endless. Then if you fell sick, same thing. People will bring you pepper soup. They'll bring you food. They'll take turns. They'll actually have, turns to who has to bring the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner. And make sure you were okay. If you needed to shower, somebody will help you actually give you a bath. If you had an operation and you couldn't bend and all that, somebody will be there. And they made sure that you had help. The neighbors were there for you. When it comes to raising your kids, it wasn't about you because it's your biological kid. The neighbors helped you raise that kid. So there's that expression of the village raises the child. It's a true expression in Africa, because if you were down the street doing something you weren't supposed to do and your neighbor saw you, you know that your mom already knew about it. So you either moved out or just moved in with somebody else, with an aunt who loves you more, because you're going to be killed when you get home. So the love and the discipline was not because they didn't love you, it's because they loved you. They wanted to put you on the straight and narrow, to be on the right path. It was love was just expressed through, the actions. People's actions showed you. When your mom calls you in and gives you her leftover food, that was love. She showed you that she loved you. So that's what growing up, love meant to me. It wasn't about just the words, it was about the actions of people from one to another.
Do you remember when your mom would ask you to carry her handbag? Or your father wants you to carry? That just meant you were the favorite for the day. There were those little things they made sure you were the one doing. And hand down clothes.
Yes.
Clothes from your older sisters who brought. Yes. Those things were significant. It's not like they were just giving you because you could not afford. You were glad to get their clothing. So what was your understanding of Valentine's Day growing up? Did you see it expressed? And how was it expressed? Was it talked about? What was this notion about Valentine's Day?
So as a little kid in Cameroon, or growing up back in Africa, Valentine's Day wasn't one of those holidays that was highlighted a lot. Not like Christmas or New Year's or Easter or the national holiday. It wasn't highlighted a whole lot. So growing up, it wasn't a day that I was looking forward to, or other people were looking forward to in the community, because it really just wasn't on the calendar as a big deal. So it was as you get older and you're in secondary school, high school, and then you start hearing a little bit more about it, where people will express. I went to a boarding school. Mana and I went to the same boarding school and the same high school, so she kept following me wherever I went. So Valentine's Day, at that point, you would have boys and girls, growing up expressing themselves through love letters, what we call love letters, um, passing notes around. Some of them would sneak it into your textbook and put it in there to express themselves. Some will be very long, elaborate letters to express themselves. Those who are very poetic, they they use a lot of words to express themselves. And then those who were just secret admirers also use that holiday as a way of expressing of finally coming out to let you know how they felt about you. And then of course between spouses, some expression of love too. There may be a special meal from the wife, to serve, but it really wasn't a huge deal. It was there, but it wasn't a huge deal. People adopted little aspects of it, but it wasn't a huge deal.
You need to tell us a little bit more about those letters, how they moved from the writer to the recipient, please.
So if those who are in boarding school, that's my best analogy. So those who are in one school, and some people went to unisex schools.
No.
Yeah, Sacred Heart and Lord's and Seika and all.
We have that.
So people who are not in a co-ed, we were in a co-ed school, yes, but others were in unisex schools. But those letters, if the significant other or who you were interested in was in another school, you had to take time, handwrite that letter or the card, or make a very personalized handwritten card, send it to somebody who had the opportunity to have an outing, to go out that day, send it through them, hope that they don't forget it at somebody's house while they're eating during outing, or stain it with palm oil, and then hope that they will take it to the other school and deliver it to the person. And you're praying that they get it by Valentine's Day, because if they don't, then you've missed the mark of the day that you wanted to express yourself, or it won't be as significant as as it needed to be. But it wasn't through the mail, it was through snail mail. Through
hand mail too. Almost through trust mail, because you had to trust that person was going to do what you had asked them to do.
Exactly.
So it was a beautiful time. And there was a lot of fear around, if you were not married or known to be married, there was a lot of fear about anyone getting to know that you even were talking to someone else. It was very covert. No one was talking about it. People just didn't go around saying, "This is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend." No, it did not happen.
Not both.
So when you moved to the West, tell us, how did your understanding of Valentine's Day change? How did you find it celebrated, and how did you fit into that?
Well, so I had the luxury of coming to the US at age 20. So I came with a baseline, basically my culture from Cameroon. So I still had, the beliefs that I grew up with. But coming to the West, it was a little different, because when any holiday was coming along, you already started seeing signs of it in the stores, including Valentine's Day. Weeks way before, right after New Year's, maybe a couple of weeks after New Year's, you already start seeing signs of Valentine's Day in the stores. And what signs did you see? Cards. You start seeing cards with big red hearts on it, big teddy bears, flowers, a lot more chocolate than usual, because those are the things that people exchange here. And that's, a lot of talk about it, people posting their pictures, or when the day actually comes around, people post their pictures about where they went, what restaurant they went to, and, they have to express. It's very outward, it's very external. People have to show that they had somebody on that day, and even if and then if somebody got engaged on that day, it was even a bigger deal because they love me so much more because I got engaged on Valentine's Day. So the expression was a little bit different from what I was used to, growing up. More external is the best way I can express it. Like, people had to show it more than how subtle it was back home.
So we live in a world where people of African descent are really struggling because media is such a powerful tool, and whoever controls media seems to be right. So it's a challenge to have a culture which is not so expressive, yet it's your culture, and what seems to obtain, what seems to be the right way is what's on television, what's or what another culture is pushing out there versus yours. Talk to our people, someone who's never been overseas and has heard about Valentine's Day, someone who, like you, has an experience with both cultures. I mean, there are couples here who, like you, grew up in Africa and are struggling because they see people expressing love in lavish ways, kissing each other on the way and buying each other gifts, and they think their partners do not love them because they're not that excessive in their expression. And then there are people who are born here who've never been to Africa, yet they are African, and they're struggling because they're being told they're African. There's this culture that's theirs, they do not know it. And here they are having to leave a culture that's the reality of the environment where they live, or the reality of the culture that they are born into. I really don't see anything wrong in the Africans' culture and way of expressing love. But we have these three scenarios. So I'm asking you, talk to our people. How do you navigate love and an understanding of love and an expression of love through these three scenarios?
Well, thanks for that question. That's a really loaded question, right there, because we're dealing with, people who have different backgrounds and different scenarios. I am in a unique position because I came here at age 20, of course, and so I was able to have something to start off with. I can even remember while here, I could hear my mom's voice in my head. I came here by myself. My parents weren't here, but I could still hear her voice in my head because of the culture, the upbringing, the guidance I had growing up. So there is something there. So what I would say to the person who's still back home, who has never been to the Western world, is preserve what you have. It's beautiful. What we grew up with, the way we showed love, the purity of it, the genuineness of it was, it's unique. It's something unique. It's something that cannot be, it's irreplaceable.
People need to pride themselves in
Yeah,
it.
pride yourself of it. Yes, be proud of who you are. There's a song that says we're proud of who we are, and it's that song is apt, because we have a culture that's rich, that some people actually admire. Sometimes when they see how we come together, we express ourselves with one another, whether it's in our marriages, showing your spouse that you care for them, bringing their food to them, serving them, and just making sure that you keep your family together. That's your way of showing love. It's not about showing it in public,
Borrowing what some other person is
or taking it
doing.
from someone else. You want to stay in true to yourself. You do not need to add some layers to you that is forced. It needs to be natural. It needs to be inborn. And then those who are here who have not been back home but are of African descent, they can adopt from, for example, the parents who come like me, who come from Africa and who have kids who were born here. You can pass that on by bringing up your kids in that unique way. Still, they can pick the good aspects of the Western
And
world, but
talking to them about this is our culture, this is
telling them stories,
Mhm.
about the culture and where you're coming from. And they'll see it. They don't, even if you don't talk to them, they'll see it in your actions. If you're acting completely Western, that's what they'll grow up with. I'll give you an example. I went to England as a little kid, and my parents went to study. We stayed there for 5 years. I was a little kid, but they still spoke the traditional language to us. They still expressed the hospitality. They lived in an era where there were other Africans from other African countries. They still did that hospitality, the community. They still showed love to one another. They didn't know these people from anywhere, but they brought them together. They even created a community while there that made them not feel like they were away from home. So people were not homesick. They came together. They always had babysitting amongst each other. Somebody would babysit your kids so you could go to work or school, because they were all students at the time, and braid your hair. Somebody else would braid your hair. You didn't have to go pay someone. They'll just do it for you. And that was a community. So in a way, I saw that. And when I went back home, I was speaking the traditional language, and people were surprised that a kid from England is speaking the traditional language and is still showing love, still knows community. I wasn't standoffish, like, oh, don't talk to me, I'm from England. No, I just blended back into the culture. And that's something that if we pass on to our kids, they see it from us, because I grew up like that. I grew up in a home where my dad said, this is an international home. The door is always open. Be ready to cook for whoever comes. Whether it's at midnight, you have to get up, make up your bed, give up your bed for somebody else. That's love. That's love, because you're doing it to a stranger, somebody who's not your blood relative, not your neighbor, not somebody who just comes, you give up your bed, you cook for them. And so I grew up with that. So if I pass that on to somebody who has never been back to Africa, they see it in me, they see it in my actions, and I live it, because I've had people live with me while in the US, people that I've never known before. I've housed them. When they stand on their feet, they move out and live their own life. That is love. So love doesn't only necessarily mean shouting it from a rooftop or putting it on a poster, or, it just actions, the actions that we express. So putting it all together, what we're saying is, Africans, we need to preserve our culture. Let's preserve the love that we grew up with. Even while here, even with the struggles of life, even with the struggles that we don't have time, with the struggles that, life is stressful, if we still incorporate that African expression of love, where we don't stay in a little bubble on an island of our own. We have people to relate with, and being together keeps families together as well, because if we're showing positivity amongst our community, we're showing that love. A lot of marriages that are going apart will not go apart because we're watching maybe a marriage trying to emulate what they're doing, and following that culture that we grew up with, and that will keep a lot more people together, and just keep keep that culture, and then we pass it on, because our kids will look at that and see the genuine love. We're not saying that fake love in front of the kids. We're saying genuine African love. Pass it on.
You talk about marriage, and it gets me to thinking. A lot of our sisters are moving away from serving their husbands. Yes, I agree. The community is fast-paced. They may cook the food. We may cook the food. But it's so critical that we still serve our husbands, put food into their plates and let them eat, set the table, let them eat. It's a little gesture, but it has a great significance, because sometimes you're saying, oh, this girl, what does she know? She is not as educated as I am. She doesn't have as much money. How could he leave me for her? But you'd be surprised. All that lady did was serve his meal. Simple as that. It is a way he grew up seeing his parents express love to each other. It's the way the African woman expresses love to her husband. And then you come to this culture where everyone does everything, and you expect him to feel disrespected and yet sit there thinking he's respected by you not doing it. It's just a way to be able to say, my dear sisters, it's a little thing like that can keep your home very small. Don't let your husband be taken away from you because you are not wise enough to know that it's important to the African man for him to be served. Back to you, Saaghe.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with that. It it might seem insignificant, but it is one of the love languages. A lot of African men, food is important to them. And if you know, and everybody knows their husband's love language, because to some husband, the food is not important. But if you know that that is important for your husband, then you have to use that love language to, you know, to keep that connection,
Sure.
or to, yeah, to show that respect, and then to, you know, to keep your home happy. Because another one might just be the fact that he might just want you he might just want you to show respect. You know, it's not even
To let him watch football.
let him watch football without walking in front of the TV or asking him a question during the game, especially the World Cup or any. I have one of those in this house. do not ask a question. Don't ask stupid questions during the game. Well, where is my handbag? Really? During the game? Wait till the game is over, 90 minutes. Or if so everybody needs to understand their husband's love language and use it. Yes, we use food as an example. It might not apply to every single household, but for the most part, 90% of, you know, African homes, that's important. And, you know, using that so that we still, you know, yes, we're in a fast food environment where we have to run, we get food fast and everything, but once in a while, if he wants that special meal cooked for him, spend the time to cook that meal for him, you know, and be a wife, be a wife.
Yeah. And also be careful about serving another person's husband, because you may think it's an innocent gesture, but you don't realize that that's a very important expression of love. Mm-hmm. And another woman could really be offended because she thinks you're making a pass at her husband by doing that. So you just don't go around being unschooled about some of these cultural things. You just go there, oh, a lady sitting with her husband and come ask him you want to go serve him. Are you kidding me?
Is it your husband?
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us. Dear viewers, I hope that you learned something about the African way of expressing love, and that this Valentine's Day, our people will be expressing love the African way. Be sure to subscribe to our video, like our channel, and until next time, I'm Manondo Akono saying thank you for responding to this summon.